to you Eric Schmidhauser, who is a founder of ATA. Husband of Coach Lucy and father of Max, also a founder of ATA. He works for Glimmer of Hope Foundation. And his partner in crime, sitting next to him, is Miss Donna Berber. And Miss Donna Berber and I met, we just figured out, 18 years ago when I moved to Austin and became involved with her family by coaching her sons. And her youngest son, Jake, is a freshman at Claremont McKenna, where I happened to go to school when I was in college. So kind of a big, giant circle there. So I have traveled to Ethiopia, which is in Africa, Central Africa, 3 times. Each time with Donna and her team from Glimmer of Hope. The last time, very recently, to visit Ganook Village. And Ganook Village is about as far away from Austin, Texas as you can get. It's set back in the mountains. You have to take these switchbacky roads, very high, and you back in there, and then you got to go another, I don't know, another half hour, 30 minutes once you're up there to get to the village. And we did a big project there, what's called a borehole well project. You'll know more about that in a second. But I would love to have you listen to Donna. Donna is the founder and the CEO, president of Glimmer of Hope Foundation. She's been working in Africa for the last 17 years through Glimmer of Hope. And they've done some fantastic things there. I'm sure she can tell you some of that as well as some of the hardships stuff that goes on in Africa as well. So without further ado, Miss Donna Berber.
Hi, nice to be here. This is home from home for me. So thank you, Jack, and thanks for organising this. So I have a question for all of you before we get started. For those of you who are wearing your ATA shirts, if you look to your, is it left sleeve? Yeah. It says a Glimmer of Hope. Who has any idea what a Glimmer of Hope is? Does anyone know what a Glimmer of Hope is? Yes?
Isn't it a foundation that builds water wells in Africa?
That's exactly what it does and more. That's right. So, anyone else know what a Glimmer of Hope does? Yes?
We bring water to people in Africa.
That's quite right. Anything else apart from water?
You eliminate poverty and eliminate that.
You can read. Well done. Okay, so let me just. You're probably wondering where my weird accent is from. So I'll put you out of your. Who can guess? That doesn't know me. That doesn't know me. All right, you. Well done. Very good. Well done. That's right. So I'm going to take you on a story, actually, and it begins in London. So the story begins about 30 years ago, when I was a young woman in my mid-20s, and I was settling down to watch television, turned on the television on my nice, comfortable sofa, and I was absolutely shocked by what came across the television screen. And what came across the television screen were women and children in the starvation camps of Ethiopia. The country had been hit by a chronic famine and drought, so there was no water and there was no food. And so the very last stop was to make your way to the starvation camps in the hope that you could get some food, in the hope that you could stay alive. And many people didn't. And I was so struck by this horror of how can I be sitting in my really comfortable sofa, in my really comfortable home, where women and children were dying in their own feces. How was that possible? And it left a really big imprint on my heart. It left a stamp. It branded me. And I couldn't get the images out of my mind of how is this possible? So roll the clock on several years. We, as a family, my husband and Ryan and Shane, who came through the ATA, we moved to Houston, and after a few years there, we then decided that we wanted to move to Austin. And we did. And then Jake was born. Who here knows Jake? Anyway, yeah, there's a bunch of you know Jake. He's doing great, by the way. and so the three boys, there they are, Ryan, Shane, Jake, all came through the ATA at different times. And life was really, really good. I always like to say, you know, roses were going in my garden. But I never could forget this feeling, this branding in my heart about the injustices of life. And the images of the starvation camp really stayed with me throughout my whole journey. So I decided that it was time to actually do something about this burn inside of myself. And what was I able to do about it? I went to the Embassy of Ethiopia, had an amount of money, said I'd like to help. And he said, better go see for yourself. And that's exactly what I did. So I took my first trip to Ethiopia, I want to say it was 1999, quite a while ago. And I was really prepared. I'd done all the research. I was like, you couldn't actually tell me anything because I kind of knew what I was going to until I got there. And when I got there, I was stopped in my tracks because there's no reference for living with nothing. I was so shocked by the smells. I remember driving from the airport and watching mothers breastfeeding their children under a piece of tarpaulin in the rain. And I was so shocked. And so I spent 10 days literally going around the country, and I visited schools, but schools that you wouldn't recognize. Can you imagine going to school where the roof and the walls are falling in on you? Can you imagine being in a school where you're sitting on a mud, dirt floor, where there are no desks, there are no chairs? Can you imagine doing a whole day of school hungry, thirsty, no water, no lunch, no breakfast? That's what I witnessed. And then I witnessed women and children. I saw little girls, aged 3 up, and the mothers pick up their jerry cans. This is a jerry can, and it's really, really heavy. And the little girls, from when they're 3 years old, they're about this big. And then when they get to about your age and your age, they're about that big. And by the time they're your age and your age, you're carrying it, all of you. And this is what they do. They don't have the privilege of going to school. Why? Why won't they go to school? They won't go to school because they need to carry and fetch the water. They get up in the morning when day breaks. They strap that on their back and they take a piece of rope that attaches that and it goes across their breastbone. And then they put it on their back, they bend in half like this, and they do the walk. And the walk can take hours. I've done it. It can take hours. And often they have no shoes on their feet, and they walk for hours to a water source. It can be a river, it can be a pond, it can be a puddle. And sometimes the puddle is so muddy and so infested with so many parasites that they'll try and scoop them away and throw them away, or even take a piece of cloth and sieve out the parasites so they don't have to drink them. And then they put that on their back. That's 40 pounds or more. And then they do the long, hard walk home again. And it can be hours, and they get home, and then what do the little girls do? Life is not easy. If you're a girl in rural Ethiopia, they're not going to school then either. Then they're grinding the grain, they're making the food, they're taking care of the family home. So this is the life. I once saw an amazing image. It was a drawing in the back of someone's house. And the drawing, when I went closer, I couldn't figure out what it was. And it was the body of a donkey and the head of an Ethiopian woman. The Ethiopian women are like donkeys. And when they're not carrying 40 pounds of water for miles every day, They're carrying sticks this big on their back for firewood. Such is the life. I went to health centers. Anyone here have dogs? Right. Health centers that I wouldn't take my dog to, and nor would you. These health centers were so dirty. There was very, very few medicines. There was barely a professional staff person there, a doctor or a like. The floors just filled with mud. I once came across a woman attached to an IV outside the health center on the floor because it was cleaner than actually being in the health center itself. So I was so affected by this level of poverty. It's hard for us all to imagine what nothing really looks like. No light to turn on, no road to get anywhere, no water when you're thirsty. It's really hard for us to imagine, but I saw it and I felt it and I took it in. And this is not okay. This is not okay. So I created a Glimmer of Hope. So what does the Glimmer of Hope really stand for? It stands for justice. What else? Go ahead.
It stands for hope.
It stands for hope. Beautiful. It stands for human rights. It stands for equality. These are basic things. Water, clean water, healthcare, education, the ability to earn money. These are basic human rights that we all deserve as human beings. So we started a Glimmer of Hope, and a Glimmer of Hope at this point has affected the lives of over 5 million people, who have 5 million people who now have access to a life that they could only have dreamed of before. And I'm going to share a story about an ex-ATA student whose name is Breck Spencer. And Breck is dear to me. He's a great guy. He was going to be here, but his flight got delayed, damn it. And so he's not, but his dad is. And Breck was a robust 14-year-old Super Champ player. Who's Super Champ player in here? Yeah, a ton of you. Okay, so you're all pretty strong, and you're all pretty robust, and very fit, I would say. So he was taken with the story of the people of Ethiopia. He was taken with the plight, with the injustice, and he shared it with his family. And so his dad, who was actually hiding in the corner there, hello John, his dad and he, with a Glimmer of Hope, decided to do a trip and go to Ethiopia. And so it was pretty amazing. I saw the video of this strapping 14-year-old young man who we decide that they're going to go to Glimmer, which is where Coach was telling you about. And when I tell you, it is the most remote place you can ever imagine. It is literally over mountains and beyond into the nothingness. And so that's where they went. And Breck decided that he wanted to do the walk the water. Now, no one at that point had done it. Everyone had gone, looked, said, oh my God, that's terrible. But he actually said, I'm doing this. And he strapped that on his back. And the way that Glimmer is really, really, there he is, really, really, really rocky. It's like the side of a cliff, and the rock is awful. It's all rock. It's all loose rock. So if you slip, and these women and children are doing this treacherous, life-threatening walk 3 to 4 times a day, and often with bare feet. So Breck puts it on, walks down. The walk down is a whole lot easier than the walk up, I can tell you. And we get to the bottom, and there he is putting, you see the rope that goes around, and then and I saw the video whilst I wasn't there, and he started to climb with this 40 pounds on his back. And all the women are gathering round and that's the sound they make. And they're trying to like encourage him, moving along, push him forward. And halfway up, he's huffing and he's puffing and he's huffing and he's puffing. And he's literally stopping him. John, this is a super fit young man. And he gets to the top and he says, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. And these women and girls are doing this 3 to 4 times a day. This is their life. So he started a movement. He started an idea. He made it his business to be thinking about how that he can help. So he really ignited a flame at the ATA. How can we help? What can we do? So he came back from that trip and we saw the video and we talked to him, and other charities, like a Glimmer of Hope, went to Ganook and they did the walk for water, they got the photograph, aren't I great? Everything's fantastic. And then they said, oh, too difficult, too much money, way too complicated a system, can't happen, won't happen. I go back the following year and there's me, I put the thing on my back, that's on the way back up, I'm guessing. Yes. I get down all the way to the bottom, to the gorge, and the water is gross, the water is foul, it's infested, and there's, like that, and there's a group of women at the bottom. And I'm asking them questions, I've got an interpreter. And then, all of a sudden, this Ethiopian women, now bear in mind, the rural Ethiopian women are normally very kind of head down, eyes down. This one woman, she gets really bold and brazen, and she walks forward, and she challenges me. I've never been challenged there. I've been challenged here many times, but I've never been challenged there. And she turns around and she says to me, there she is, look at her, she's formidable, she's a force. And she looks at me and she says, so you know about my life? I want to know about your life. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your children. What do your children do while my children are walking hours each day, risking their lives and breaking their back? What do your children do? Whew. And in that moment, I was really stunned. I was shocked and slightly embarrassed. And at that time, I had just Jake living at home. And I had to tell her, well, meekly, my son gets up in the morning and he takes a shower. There's no showers happening, not one. He takes a shower. And then after that, he comes to the kitchen and I make him breakfast. And then he picks up his backpack, which is kind of 30, 40 pounds, but he takes it as far as the car. And then he gets dropped off at school, does a day at school, moaning about it. Then, guess what? Then he goes and plays tennis for 3 hours. I mean, her mind is boggling at this point. Then he comes home from that and has another shower. And then he has a meal, does his homework, and goes to bed. I can promise you, no one here, life, resembles it. And thank your lucky stars. Thank your lucky stars that you were born into this and not fetching and carrying water. And if you're a girl, you're not even getting an education. And so I was very affected by my reality. Again, it was like that moment on the sofa in London. My reality, that reality. How's that possible? So then I carried the water all the way up, and I got to the top, and a Berber helped me. A Berber helped me go to the top. She was encouraging me. And when I got there, I looked at my team, and I was like, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. And in that moment, I mean, it was on a wing and a prayer that we turned around in that moment and said, we commit to you. We will not ignore your plight. This is unjust. This is against all human rights. And we will be here for you, and we're going to come back. And we are going to somehow create a water system here that will work for you. So I came back with this story and spoke to my friend, your coach, and shared with him, you know, this is the plight. And he stepped up and said, you know, the ATA will help. We are going to help be part of this campaign to bring human rights, to bring clean water to Ganook, to the most forgotten people on the planet. And your legacy that has gone before you, that sits in this room today, raised $159,000 to bring clean water to these people. And how did they do it? It was amazing. They created campaigns. They inspired one another. They created campaigns where you could donate for playing tennis matches, for knit-a-thons, run-a-thons, babysitters. I mean, the creativity was totally ingenious, and it was absolutely remarkable. And as a result of that, $160,000 went towards this water system. It was so complicated, it was so complex. We normally turn out water systems pretty quickly. This one took 3 years in the making. And I am thrilled to say, as I stand here today, that it is the largest solar-powered water system in the whole of rural Ethiopia. It's a miracle. It was so challenging that we literally had to use dynamite to blast through the rock, because it's all rock. And then we had to apply 8 kilometers worth of pipeline up the mountain. It was quite a labor of love. And when we couldn't get the vehicles through because it was too narrow, we had to, how could we transport all these materials? Tell me if you can have, anyone guess, how are we going to transport all these rocks and materials and, yes?
I think you walk up with materials.
But what if they're so heavy you couldn't carry them? Yeah, anyone else?
Drag them.
Huh?
Drag them.
Too heavy. Too heavy. Get really creative here. Okay, so it's not human. That's my first clue.
Helicopter.
No, no.
Animals.
Yes. So who's going to be so strong that they can carry rocks and dynamite? Yes.
Elephants.
Huh? And you're on the right track.
Rhino.
Close. Come on, you're getting there. You're getting there. Yes.
Animals.
Yes. Well done. Camels. So that's what we did. We deployed camels to get the materials. And so now, what is in Ganook? After that water system, there are nine water stations where people can go and get clean water. Not only that, there's cattle troughs for the animals. So guess what? You don't have to drink the water that an oxen has been doing his business in. So really and truly, when you think about the value of that, and in terms of people, 3,000 people have access to clean water. It really is a miracle, and in your wildest imagination, you can't imagine where these people are living. It is for them. They never believed it possible in their lifetime. So the story doesn't end there. Because of Glimmer's model, we believe that it takes 4 things to uphold a life. We believe it takes 4 pillars to have a life of dignity. Simply that. And that's water and sanitation, healthcare, access to healthcare, and that every child has the opportunity to go to school, and parents have the opportunity as well to create an income. So now the residents of Ganook have clean water. That's the old structure of the school, and that's the new structure of the school. It's a world apart. So everyone there, you know, if they go to the health center and they're given medicines, guess what? They get to take them with clean water. What's the point of taking medicines when you're drinking them with dirty water? So all of the water, health, and education together brings a whole holistic life. And this is your legacy. You need to own this. ATA needs to own just how significant you have all been, and your predecessors have been, in changing the life of so many thousands of people who simply deserve it. And I'm going to end on one last thing because it makes me really happy. Berber, who's the woman that challenged me, she's right there, that's her. Now, guess what? She gets up in the morning, she takes her jerry can, maybe 2 minutes away, 2 minutes. She walks up the road, she pumps clean water, and she goes home. And her family is thriving along with all the other thriving families in Ganook. So I want to say thank you for listening, and thank you to Coach, who has been such a supporter of it all. Thank you, everyone.
Coach Eric has a few more slides, and I thought as we're going through the rest of the slides, I just want to give you a quick overview of my trip this last time. So this is Ganook Village. You can see the mountains there. You can see this is a house. You can see the jerry cans outside the house, and those are other houses around this village area of Ganook. One of the things I found interesting is people would not marry into Ganook.
Yeah.
If you were a Ganook woman or man, you could not get someone to come and marry you from another village because Ganook was too poor. There was no prospects. If you lived in Ganook, you had no prospects. I fetch it every 5 seconds. So this is me after I've been incredibly sick. The problem traveling in the third world countries is it's easy to get sick. I was in my tent for about 12 straight hours throwing up. From both ends. It was awful. This is me getting ready to give a speech, right? And this is, I wasn't feeling that great, but I put on a good show, I think.
You did.
And this is Brett Spencer, who started the first ATA water walk. You saw some pictures earlier of kids with red jerry cans. That was our students down at the creek, filling up jerry cans, and I'm going to let you try to lift these in a minute. To see what it was like to walk, and we had them walk up around the hills of Spanish Oak just to see what that was like, so it was good. So there they are doing that. That's Max, and those ropes were not very fun, for sure. So this is what a drilling rig looks like. This is how they drill the well. So this is a deep borehole well, so that means they go down 90 meters. Very deep, very hard to get to, very expensive. And then the water is pumped up from the well, and if we got the solar, yeah, that's me on top of the reservoir. That's the reservoir. So this is the solar panel. So this is the pump right here. The reservoir that you saw is way back up here, up on the top of the mountain. That solar panel charges batteries that runs the pump, that pumps the water for the day, up all night, pumps water up to the big reservoir. If you go back one. So that fills, I think it's about, is it 10,000 gallons?
13,000.
13,000 gallons. So all during the day, those 3,000 villagers, that water goes through a gravity-fed system to the 9 water points. So they use up all the water. During the day, the batteries are being charged. During the night, the batteries run the well and pump the water back up and fill the reservoir. So every morning the reservoir is full. Every night it goes empty. And so that's the largest system. Those are guys working on the system. And this is a water point where, I think it's by the school, where they're filling their jerry cans. And kids can wash their hands now and get water there, clean water there very easily. This is a villager getting water.
At the school.
at the school. So this is actually, who knows Tatum? Tatum Blaylock, yes. The Straight Foundation is a foundation her grandparents founded, and they funded part of this, or made a donation towards this borehole well. And this is Donna's friend, making the easy walk now instead of the hard walk with water.
There she is again at her water point.
Easy water when it's right there by your house. Oh, great picture. What else you got? Is that it?
Yeah.
So, anybody have questions that they'd like to ask Ms. Berber before she heads out? Alejandro.
How often do people need to go and inspect the panels and make sure everything is working properly?
Yeah, so there's a maintenance program that's in place, and so everything that we do has that element, and especially a project like this. So there's actually someone that's employed, and that's his job to go and check on the whole system, and so there's a whole kind of chain that in terms of people that are involved, and if something goes wrong, then we're immediately alerted, and then there's a chain that will automatically make that response. So it has a full-time person who is actually checking on it.
Yep, back there. Yep, Jordan.
Did you ever take your children to Ethiopia? And if you did, how did it affect them?
Yeah, good question, but I can't see you. Let me come. Oh, there you are. So yes. So Ryan, Shane, Jake. So Jake was 3, Shane was 11, and Ryan was 14, and they went every single year for 6 years. So they've been since then. So they've been 7 or 8 times to these places, and it's affected them in quite a dynamic way. So, for example, Jake, to this day, whenever he brushes his teeth, he turns the faucet off because he knows that water is a jewel. And so, you can be out on the tennis court and you can be giving your heart and soul to your match, but at the end of the day, they have another frame of reference, which is there's something else bigger that's going on than this too. So I think it's affected who they are. I think it's affected their hearts because they've seen suffering on a different level. And so I think it's affected their hearts and who they are. It's a great question. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What about food?
What about it?
Like, you make water,
Yeah.
and you give them water, but what about food?
So here's the thing. One of the other things that we do is irrigation systems. So when you can irrigate land, everyone has this very small plot of land. If you can irrigate crops, then you have the ability to grow food. And there's local markets. And if you have a small income, then you can go to the marketplace and buy food. But the problem is, in times of famine and drought, it's much more difficult.
Other questions for Donna? Yes, ma'am.
Do you buy them more medicine?
So we have a deal. We have a deal with the government of Ethiopia. And the deal is, if we provide the hospitals, you need to provide the doctors and the medicines. We also have a deal with them. If we're going to build these schools, then you have to provide the teachers. So everything we do in a collaborative way. We do together. We do in partnership with. So yes, and that's the deal, and it works.
Yep, back in the back.
Donna, you started talking a little bit about what a typical day is
Yeah.
with 4, 6, 8 less hours of trekking back and forth to have to get water. So what kinds of things are happening? Like what does a typical day look like for, like you described Jake's day for
Yeah.
your friend. What does a day in her kids' lives look like?
So what does a day look like in the life of a woman?
Or
a man?
women
They're
or
different.
her children.
Oh, okay, so little boys take rank over little girls. So in times of famine, for example, if there's a shortage of food, boys are going to eat first. So it's very systematic like that. It's very hierarchical like that. So the men are not doing a lot. Let's be really clear. The men are farmers, largely, and if there's rain, then they farm their land. The women, on the other hand, are doing all the labor. They're doing 90% of the work, which is getting up in the morning, doing the walk for water, which literally takes hours. And when they get to the water point, sometimes there's a queue, there's a line, so it can take even longer. Then they come back and they have to take care of the children. As I said, they have to grind the grain. And so there's no box of cereal, there's no easy bagel. Everything is made from its original source. So there's a lot that's involved in preparing. In taking care of these meager homes, there's that. And then, at the end of that day, if there's space, which there isn't often, then they go out and help the men in the fields. So that's a typical day.
I'm saying eliminating the time that they're...
How's it changed?
How has it changed?
Oh, I didn't hear that bit, I'm sorry. How's it changed significantly? So now the women are going for, let's say, half an hour. And so what it allows for them is to have their own productivity. So they get involved in income generation activities. They're able to do more to take care of their families. Their hygiene has improved enormously, so they're fitter, they're stronger. So it's really exponential in terms of how their lives are improved, all the way just from the time, the family, and their health.
And the children can go to school.
And the children, and the little girls go to school, big point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas before they were just fetching water and sticks. For...
Has the community of Ganook grown? Like you said, no one would come there.
Yeah.
But is it actually getting larger? I mean, outside to in?
I don't know that anyone else is still coming there. I don't know if there's been an influx there. So I would say maybe not. It's a very harsh place
Very
to live.
remote.
It is harsh.
Hard to get there.
Yeah.
Even with all the resources we brought 8 Range Rovers. Even with 8 Range Rovers, getting to Ganook Village was a
It's
bear.
incredible.
It was there.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Donna? Yes.
So are you only doing projects there, or are you moving to other villages and
Oh, yeah.
improving them?
Good question. We have over 10,000 projects, and each one of those is a school, or a water system, or a health facility. So we're all over the country. I just wanted to bring you this because you're so connected to it. The ATA is, and it's a great example. But we're doing literally hundreds and hundreds of projects each year, and we've been doing this for about 17 years. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Are we gonna like get some nicer homes and stuff?
Are you going to?
Because in those pictures it showed them with like straw homes. Like,
Yes.
are we gonna get nicer homes and stuff?
So,
It's a really great
it's a
question,
great
first of all.
question. Yeah, great question. So does this help them get nicer homes? So sometimes is the answer, not all the time. So if you're dirt poor and you don't really have the chance to make any money, but you are getting clean water and you are healthier, that allows you to do something that's productive. How do you create some money? How to end poverty is create money, right?
Yeah.
So it means that if they start doing some activities that start producing some money, then they can improve their home. So the answer is
let me help you. So if your full day is getting water, you have no time to generate any income. But if now the water is very close to you and you can access it, well, I can start a garden plot and maybe I can grow some vegetables and maybe I can sell a few to my neighbors. Maybe I can make a little bit of money. Over the course of 5 years, maybe I can buy a cow. Maybe I can sell the milk that the cow makes and I can make a little bit more money and I can buy a little bit more land and then maybe I can build a better house, right? So all of that, this is the first step. Clean water is the first step of that, I guess, is the way to think about it.
And the answer is sometimes and often.
Coach Newman, could you make real to this group of people in this room the number of students that actually started some project that Donna spoke about that would surprise some of you who they might have been and what they did individually? Because they're pretty diverse.
Well, where's your packet? Where's your little packet of cash?
Oh!
I got an
It's
example
another
right here.
packet of cash. Don't get asked that very often.
Who brought this today? Sasha, where'd you get this money? Caroline, where'd you get this money?
We did it
Stand up, speak louder.
We did a project for kids in business where we sold like home decor and other crafts that we made, and then from that money we gave it to.
So this is your profits from your kids in business project. So that's one thing, right?
Part of that money, but I want to make clear this, I want to make clear is that there's more than that. There's, Breck Spencer was a good example, but
Playing for Glimmer.
playing for Glimmer,
Josh Hager, who's now the number 1 player at Notre Dame University, started a campaign called Playing for Glimmer, which is basically a tennis-a-thon, and that raised over $100,000. Breck Spencer did the Walk for Water, got people to sponsor, and that raised, I think, $50,000 or $60,000. Other people did their own campaign. Who's done a campaign here? Some people have done a campaign. Anybody here yet? Callie's done a campaign.
Oh,
Hannah's
yeah.
done a campaign. You can set up your own campaign. You can sell lemonade. You can do whatever you want.
I just want to say though that every person in this room has influence over other people, and in that influence, you'd be surprised, it doesn't take someone as old as me to do it. You have influence and you have the ability to motivate people, so if you've got an idea, know that it can become reality.
So we're going to send JD back down to play some games with Coach Brandon and Coach Rowe and Coach Norm. If you guys want to try to lift a jerry can before you go down, you can. But before we do that, can we give Miss Berber a round of applause?